Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time zone you're joining us from. Thank you so much for joining this particular webinar dubbed "Powering the Mission." From access to implementation, how we help nonprofits to turn Microsoft tools into impact. So, as we say here in Kenya, karibu sana or welcome. Right. I hope you've grabbed your cup of coffee, cup of tea. It's a chilly morning here in Nairobi, and I'm hoping that you're prepared. I see Amos is very much prepared with his cup. Right, yeah. So thank you as even as you come in. My name is Edwin Olo, and I'm the Microsoft Solutions lead here at Sebasti, and I'll be your host today as we explore, how we can be able to turn Microsoft tools into impact. This event is all about, practical, scalable, secure tech solutions tailored for your unique needs. Now, I need to mention this off the top of the bat. The reasons why we do this particular sessions is for three purposes. Number one is to be able to engage with you, right? We know that you are the ones on the field, you're the ones on the mission, and you have a lot of experience with regards to what you do as a nonprofit. And so we'd want to engage and figure out how does, tech play a part in your day to day and how you are able to fulfill the mission. So we'd want to make it really, really engaging. And so feel free to be able to put in your questions, your comments, your clarifications on the chat, right? As well as the other thing that we hope to do is to educate, right? There's a couple of things that, of course, as we're going to go through, you're going to realize, that Microsoft is providing for nonprofits to be able to help them to, get to the next level with regards to their mission and impact. And so we'd hope to, bring that information to you so that then you can figure out how you can be able to plug that in. And of course, the other bit is basically, to enjoy ourselves while we are in here, right? Just make sure that you are well covered, right? Have some fun while we are at it. Ask the questions as well as we go through it. So welcome. I think we're going to do a bit of housekeeping as we're just getting started, right? We usually get the question, is this session going to be recorded? And most people would want to just take some time and go back to it and figure out what was discussed and what were the highlights. So yes, this session is being recorded, and you should expect a polished recording delivered into your inbox within 6 business days. And of course, like I mentioned, we really love that these sessions would be, engaging for you. And so we hope that you would, bring your questions on, bring your clarifications, your comments, right? So we are going to be having a Q&A at the end of this particular call, but feel free, even as we are going through, some of the topics that we have today to, put in your questions or your comments in the chat. And we have a whole team that is, waiting to respond to this even as we go through the session. So please feel free to make it as engaging and as exciting as possible, right? And the other thing we hope to do is just to empower you with all the information that is there. So feel free to, drop any comments and any questions at any particular point in time. So yeah, with that done and wrapped up, let's go into what the agenda looks like for today. So we're looking forward to, kind of like having some welcomes and introductions, and this is going to be done by Salome, and I'm going to be introducing her later, right? And then we go and look into what's the role of tech in nonprofit, look about, things around the overview of the Microsoft nonprofit offers and grants, right? What is out there that nonprofits can be able to start leveraging, right? And then we get to see some live demos of, this Microsoft tools at play, and then probably discuss some real impacts, that real impact of these tools for NPOs. And then after that, we can get into a nifty session of Q&A. So that is basically a rundown for the whole webinar today. It's a 90-minute session. We hope to be able to give you time to be able to interact with the solutions that we have, and probably give some 30 or so minutes for Q&A. And we really value your time. So we'll try and, front load this with all the goodies, the bells and the whistles with regards to what Microsoft has for us. And without further ado, I think to start us off, like I mentioned, in terms of the welcome notes and introductions, we want to invite the one and only Salome Goa, right? Microsoft Sure Step Ambassador at Foresight. And Salome is really passionate about helping NPOs unlock the power of technology. And she is the one that is going to be starting us off and setting the tone for this particular webinar. So, karibu sana. Welcome, Salome.
Thank you so much, Edwin, and welcome everyone to today's webinar. I'm going to share my screen quickly on my end. You guys don't mind. 1 second. It might take 2 seconds to load, but I just want to say thank you so much for the warm welcome introduction. My name is Salome Gawa. I'm the Microsoft Step Ambassador for Microsoft Elevate, which consists of the nonprofit and educational side. I see my screen has popped up, which is a good thing. And I will be running you through a bit of the basics and an introduction of Microsoft Elevate. And as the session goes on, I'll pop through a few guides on how to get your nonprofit your nonprofit profile approved by Microsoft. So I'll pop few steps, a few like nifty little links that I'd like you guys to just go and view that I think will be very beneficial for each nonprofit today in this call. So with that being said, at Foresight, we work alongside C-SPIN direct resellers such as Subasi to ensure nonprofits don't just get licenses, but the right solutions at the right value tailored to their needs. And I always say, if you want to spend more than you'd like, go without a C-SPIN direct reseller. If you want to remain in your budget, stick with a C-SPIN indirect reseller, especially when it comes to solutions such as Business Central and Azure. So let me walk you through a bit through the Microsoft Elevate program and highlight some of the licensing benefits. So Microsoft Elevate brings philanthropy, nonprofit licensing, and education initiatives together into this one program. Why I'd like to also mention education today, I believe there are a few nonprofits here that are nonprofits, but that can likely also be approved as a nonprofit through Microsoft, if not through the nonprofit route. I hope that makes sense. So through Elevate Academy, the goal is to help skill 20 million people through AI skills credentials by 2027. And also Elevate is designed to deliver scalable and sustainable impact for nonprofits and schools. So one of the biggest advantages of Elevate is in licensing. When you purchase through a Microsoft partner such as Subasi, eligible nonprofits and schools can access Microsoft Cloud solutions to up to 75% discounted rates. This is very important because I see a lot of nonprofit customers still purchasing licenses at a commercial rate, whereas they could have benefited from the 75% discounted rates that they can purchase through Subasi. And here's the key benefit. Nonprofits can also receive they can receive 300 Microsoft Business Basic licenses at zero cost, as long as their profile has been approved through Microsoft as a nonprofit entity. This means you can empower staff or volunteers with enterprise-grade tools while still keeping costs predictable and affordable. So in education, I'll run through this very quickly, as I know this may only be applicable to the 2% on the score, but I do believe this is worth mentioning because a lot of nonprofits that are focused on academia and upskilling the people within their community may go through the nonprofit process of the verification of Microsoft, get a rejection, and then just give up from there. I would like those nonprofit organizations to try this route as well. And I'll also pop in the steps on how you can also get, if you are an educational nonprofit institution, we can also get you vetted as an educational entity. So in education, Microsoft uses a 140 licensing ratio. So for every paid for faculty license, up to 40 student licenses are included at no cost. That makes licensing extremely cost-effective for schools, especially with the discounted Microsoft 365 A3 and A5 educational plans. So closing on this, Elevate is not just about technology. It's about combining grants, licensing, and skilling to create real and lasting change. Work with a Microsoft partner like Subasi to ensure that you remain in your budget and know which solutions are right and affordable for you, and it's tailored specifically to your sector. So with that, I'd like to say thank you so much for your time, and I'd love to hand back over to Edwin. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Salome. I think I'm just going to be sharing my screen here, even as I try to do. Let me just do that again because I need to do that with sound. Right. Let me know if you can see my screen.
I can see screen.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Salome, for letting us know what Microsoft has in store, especially for non-profits. One of the things that you have mentioned is with regards to working with a CSP partner, right? And I think it's important that we brief our constituents here today of of how Microsoft works. So Microsoft has these particular grants that they have for nonprofits, right? And how that gets distributed is, we work with distributors like Foresight, for example. That is where Salome comes in, right? So Salome helps us to be able to make use of these grants and give these grants to nonprofits. Now, as Salome has rightly mentioned that, some nonprofits have already, taken the step to go out and, purchase some of the services by themselves, right? And what she has mentioned is that when you do that, you're getting them at, the commercial rate, right? And if you haven't done anything around the eligibility process, you're basically paying at commercial rates, which is something that we're going to go through and for you to see what the discount level is at. I think Salome mentioned is almost about 75%. You're missing out on the 75% discount. And today we're talking about how do we make sure that nonprofits are able to power their mission. And one of the things that we hope to do is we're trying to show you how you're able to power your mission and your impact at a very affordable rate, right? So that is why it is important for you to go through eligibility to be able to make sure that you take advantage of the Microsoft grants that are there. But even before we go through, I know we have a poll that is that Amos has prepared for us, right? And we just want to know and check within the constituents that have joined today, how many of us are utilizing the Microsoft grants, right? How many of us, are using Microsoft tools, for example, right? So feel free to fill that in. That helps us to be able to know the tone of this particular conversation and this webinar today. So let's see how that goes. Right, and I see actually there's two of them, and right, interesting, right? The other one would be of the nonprofits that have joined us here today, how many are currently, powering or supporting their, educational institutions or working within the educational vertical. So also please feel free to fill that in. Right, I don't know, Amos, if the feedback is in. What are you seeing from your side?
Yeah, I see about 9 responses. Let's see.
All right.
Let me just read them through.
Mm-hmm.
Should have shared this on the screen.
Right.
Great. Yeah, 9. Yeah, quite a number actually already work with Microsoft tools.
Right.
So about 2 or 3 out of 15 responses already work with Microsoft tools, and about 3 work with education institutions.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
so very, very good mix in terms of, people who are utilizing the technology. And I would want to say kudos for that, right? For those who are utilizing the Microsoft tools. And I'm hoping that at the end of this, because I know sometimes we usually ask the question around how many, are utilizing the grants, and you might not necessarily have that particular information, probably might be sitting with somebody who's working on IT on your side. So that is something that would want you to, go ahead and, try and figure out if your organization is pretty much utilizing utilizing, the grants. But let us get into the meat of our matter today, right? So with regards to what we have seen as core areas for any particular nonprofit is number one, looking at delivering your programs more effectively. This is all about improving field visibility, streamlining your workflows and, using your data to be able to maximize impact. So that is one area that we've had nonprofits talk about, that this is an area that they would really want to focus on. The other one is about stakeholder management. So we're talking about, your constituents, from your donors, you'd want to be able to meet their expectations, as well as the people that the communities that you're working with. You'd also want to meet their expectations. So it's very important for nonprofits to be able to better manage their stakeholders. And of course, as we are doing all this, delivering our programs, as well as, handling our stakeholders, we'd also want to be able to make sure that we're doing this efficiently and in a secure environment. So these are some of the core things that we're going to be addressing, even as we look at the tools that Microsoft has in play for nonprofits to be able to utilize. But on the other side, we have had in terms of challenges that nonprofits have, and we are trying to figure out how are we able to turn these particular challenges into opportunities through technology. So one of the challenges is, of course, around, like I've talked about, delivery constraints. 85% of survey respondents expect service demand to increase. That is from a research that was done in 2025, right? So there's a lot of expectation, but are our nonprofits, configured to be able to meet those particular expectations? Number two, we're talking about, staffing challenges. Nonprofit workers, report being stressed and burnt out by the workload and the demand. As we've talked about, the delivery constraints is pushing the staff with regards to, how much they need to do. And we know that time is a finite resource. So there's only so much that you can be able to achieve in an 8-hour day, let's say, for example, 8-hour working day. And so that is becoming one of the things that we're looking at in terms of the challenges that nonprofits face. The other one is in terms of donor acquisition and retention. With all that is happening within the globe, we have seen times where there's fundings that have been cut, for specific programs and specific projects and all that. And so we're trying to figure out how are we able to retain the donors and acquire more, and try also to figure out how we're able to meet their expectations. Right? Personalized communication. How do we engage with our stakeholders, in a way that, is personalized to them? So that is something that nonprofits are looking at, because, as we do this, then we are able to increase, our level of impact. So that's another challenge. The other one is the complex financial environment, changes in the fundraising sources, compliance, data challenges, and the demand of services, create financial instability. So how are we able to, use technology to be able to help nonprofits to navigate through this particular periods, right? And the other one is decision-making inefficiency. So we are collecting a lot of data, but it is sitting in silos, and we're trying to figure out how can we be able to bring all this together. So the good news is that Microsoft has given us tools, right? We have now tools, and above that, all the tools that we have, you can now start leveraging AI and technology, so to help your nonprofit to be able to streamline your operations, to be able to, for you to be able to gain valuable insights in terms of what you have been able to collect. Protect your data, because that is really, really important, and ensure that you have compliance with your funding sources and regulations. So let's get to the sweet stuff here. Now, with regards to what you have from a nonprofit's perspective from Microsoft, is you have the following. Number one, you have access to, a customer grade, email, for example. So using Microsoft 365 Business Basic, you can actually have up to 300 users licensed for free, thanks to Microsoft. What that allows you to be able to do is, you have your data in, in a secure environment, you have a tenant that you are able to control. I can't tell you the number of times that we've had organization talk about, being supplied, let's say, for example, things as simple as email, right? Their emails, not coming through, or they do not have access to whoever supplied their email for them, and so things are not working well for them. So those are some of the things that you can look at, right? I think my screen stopped sharing. Just go back
Sorry.
there. No
Yeah.
problem. Right. Yeah. So one of the things that you can now start taking advantage of is, for example, licensing your email, right? So once you license your email, things that come with Business Basic is now once you get now things around your Microsoft Office suite online, as well as now a business grade email that then can start supporting your business, and things around collaboration that Amos is going to be taking us through the live showcase, things that you can be able to do with a SharePoint, for example, for your external document share with your constituents. Let's say, for example, documentations from donors, or you're working with implementation partners on the ground and you need them to be able to submit documentation. So you're able to leverage such tools. The other thing is things around Azure, credits, and we're going to show some things that you can be able to do with this. Salome mentioned about 75% off. So if you're currently paying for your Microsoft tools using a credit card, please feel free to talk to us after this session, because then we can be able to make sure that you can actually reduce your spending by up to 75%, right? And that saving can now be used to and be plugged into your mission and your impact as an NPO. And of course, like Salome has mentioned, if you probably either tried, eligibility at some point and it failed, you can also have a conversation with us and see how we can be able to help that you to push that forward. So in the, if you start talking to us today, in the next 3 days, we could be able to get you up and running on Microsoft nonprofit grants. That is how fast we can get you to saving costs and to be able to use an enterprise grade solution. So in terms of our pillars, we're talking about 4 pillars, right? We're talking about productivity, and you're going to be seeing this in terms of the things that we're going to be able to showcase. We're talking about security. We cannot be able to have all this particular productivity without considering security. The number of hackers that have grown and social engineering that is out there is posing a challenge. And imagine you're working with your constituents and your donors, and this information cannot afford to leak. So security becomes a paramount item that every nonprofit needs to think about. And of course, you'd want to be able to measure your impact, right? How are you able to report to your donors if you're not able to showcase that particular data to them? And of course, the other bit is with what has been coming around, you'd want to be able to work from wherever you are at, right? So, and also take advantage of the things that are happening in tech, and AI is the new buzzword, right? And it's not only just a buzzword, but we've seen how that is helping people around the globe in terms of how to work smarter and work better. Right? So, for example, if you're already on Microsoft, this is what you're looking at. If you are using or paying via credit card, you're probably paying for Business Premium at $22 per user per month. If you get on a Microsoft, the nonprofit SKU, then you should be able actually to reduce that cost to $5, right? So that is the first advantage that you could look at. And if you are actually, paying via credit card, you're probably paying for Business Basic at $6 right now, and you could actually be able to get that particular amount, those particular licenses for free. So that is something that you need to be able to consider with regards to, making a change and taking advantage of the grants that Microsoft has given. And you can be able to see all these other benefits that you can be able to get. Right. The other bit is things around Copilot and how you're able to do. Now, I know most of us use ChatGPT, right, for our research and, trying to tweak how we write our mails out. But one of the things that we've realized with that is that the moment you put your information out there, you do not have control on what it's going to be used for, right? It might be used to train the models. And so your information that you put about your nonprofit or that particular report or that particular proposal that you're trying to prepare ends up in another side of the globe, in somebody else's search. So you might want to, centralize and protect that particular data. And that is why we admonish that, nonprofits are able to now start using things like Copilot, right? Copilot chat, because what it does is that it secures your information. It's not used to train any models, and it stays within your tenant. So you can be 100% sure that nobody else has access to that particular kind of information. But I might be talking a lot. Let me just take us here, and we can see how this works in real time. So just give me a minute. Let me see if this is it. Right. So let me know if you can hear the sound.
Today, we're going to explore how Microsoft's latest AI tools can support your nonprofit organization. Specifically, we'll dive into how Microsoft 365 Copilot can help you create content effectively, efficiently, and securely. Here's a process you may be all too familiar with: writing a grant application. Even if you're applying for the same grant
There was a pause there. And it seems you're also on mute.
Let me just check on that.
Okay.
Yeah, let me just run that. My apologies. Let's try that again.
Today, we're going to explore how Microsoft's latest AI tools can support your nonprofit organization. Specifically, we'll dive into how Microsoft 365 Copilot can help you create content effectively, efficiently, and securely. Here's a process you may be all too familiar with: writing a grant application. Even if you're applying for the same grant every year, the content of your application will likely change. Let's look at how a nonprofit, Contoso, would leverage some AI tools to simplify the process. Before we jump in, let's start with some basics about the AI-powered solutions we're exploring today. Some of the most exciting advancements in AI are coming out of large language models called LLMs and generative AI. LLMs take a question, known as a prompt, provided by the user. That's you. Then the LLM analyzes it and creates an appropriate response based on relevant data, like previously created materials or information from the internet. Copilot also respects your privacy and security and does not retain or train on your organization's data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is an AI assistant powered by an LLM. It can help you with various tasks across different platforms, such as Windows, Bing, and Microsoft 365. As a user, your interaction with Copilot is largely the same, regardless of whether you use it with Bing, Windows, or Microsoft 365. Simply ask Copilot a question via a prompt and get an answer in response. The only difference is where you ask the question. Let's see how that works in Contoso's grant writing scenario. For the purpose of our example, Megan, a development associate at Contoso, is writing a grant to support a digital literacy initiative in her community. First, Megan needs to find some external data to validate Contoso's proposal. Since she needs information outside of Contoso's own data, she toggles to the web and asks Microsoft 365 Copilot to find relevant information on the state of digital literacy in the impacted community in Washington state. Copilot summarizes relevant statistics, providing sources for reference. When our development associate has follow-up questions, she can ask Copilot to refine the response and even change the tone of the response to meet her needs. These answers are just the starting point. Megan uses the responses as a basis for her rough draft, but ensures that she crafts the final language in a way that is true to Contoso's brand voice. Now, Megan will use Microsoft 365 Copilot in Word to create and edit her grant proposal document. She can ask Copilot to help with tasks, such as draft a grant proposal for Contoso's digital empowerment program and specify documents she wants Copilot to reference. She can drop in the external data she found on the web, Plus, she can merge it with internal data as well. Our development associate can pull in an Excel table of program metrics and ask Copilot, write an executive summary for my proposal. After Megan cleans up her draft, she can summarize it and share it with her team on email. As you can see, using Microsoft 365 Copilot can make your grant research, drafting, and sharing process easier and faster.
Sorry, I think I was speaking on mute. Yeah. So that is one of the ways we can be able to save time, right? As we talked about, one of the constraints that we have is that, you need to be able to deliver much faster, and you do not have necessarily all the resources that you need, especially from a time perspective and even a staffing perspective. So how are we able to bridge that particular gap? That is where Copilot comes in. And if you haven't tried Copilot, I would really advise you to do that, especially the things that you can do within Excel. I don't know if Amos would have something for us in terms of that, but there's a lot of things that you're able to, look at from a Copilot perspective. It being able to reference documents that are stored within your SharePoint, your OneDrive, is able to surface them, combine those particular documents, give you summaries for it, and all that. That helps you to save time. So that is one of the advantages that you'd have. The other bit, of course, is around security. There are nonprofits that will probably have the approach of bring your own device, right? And so let's say, for example, the people that are working for you or working within the nonprofits have their own devices, and you'd want to be able to still secure the company information within those particular devices. We're talking about their phones, we're talking about their tablets, or even their machines. So how are you able to do that? So Microsoft has grants and has licenses that you're able to take advantage of, in terms of now managing those particular devices, also being able to manage things like access, so that those individuals are not hacked. And let's say, for example, if there's such a breach, then what are the things that we can be able to do? Things like remote wipe. Let's say, for example, somebody's machine has been stolen and you do not want that data to be accessed. You can be able to do a remote wipe of that particular device. So that's another pillar that you can be able to look at, staying secure as a nonprofit. The other one is about measuring impact, like we had mentioned, right? So we have all this data that we have collected. Probably it's in Excel, it probably somewhere in the financial system. How are we able to see all this data making sense? So Microsoft has what we call Power BI Desktop, where you can now start making visuals and making sense of the data that you'd have. But let's say, for example, you'd want to be able to share that data across with, let's say, other members of your organization, or also external parties like your donors and all that. You can be able to leverage what we call Power BI Pro, that allows you to be able to now share dashboards and share the reports in different sources. You can embed that on your website. You can have it in SharePoint internally for your organization to be able to see how that is looking like. And just to show you what that would look like, I would give the example of one of the nonprofits that we've been working with. Is called Kenya Wildlife Conservancies Association. Now, the report that you're seeing in front here used to take them days, or let's say weeks, to be able to prepare, right? Just being able to get all this data in one place, right? They had all this data. The data about their landscapes is in one particular Excel, about their members is in another particular Excel, about their impact is in another particular Excel. Imagine now trying to collate that and do what we call, for example, what we're calling the State of Conservancies report. So this report used to take them a couple of weeks for them to be able to do. But right now, it's all at the click of a button. And that is because their information is centralized, and that information is now able to help them to be able to make decisions and to be able to provide those particular reports out. So this is one of the advantages that then you get when you start leveraging things like, Power BI. You are able to now draft reports that meet your donors, expectations regarding to how it needs to be presented, when it needs to be presented, because we know that time is a factor with regards to reporting, right? So feel free to leverage things like Power BI to start now automating things like your report generation and your report writing as well. Right. So that's just a bit of it. The other bit is, of course, things like Azure grants. So we have NPOs that probably are hosting their websites, or NPOs that want to try things around AI and stuff like that. This is one of the things that you need to leverage. Are you having a server on premise that you might want to take to the cloud? This is a good tool for you to use. We have nonprofits who are probably running an ERP application. Let's say, for example, Sage, you're running Sage on a particular desktop on premise. And now the problem with that is that for you to access that particular application, you have to be in office, or you have to configure a VPN and stuff like that. This grant will be able to make an end to that and make it cheaper in such a way that that particular resource is now put on the cloud, and therefore you are able to access it from anywhere. And we know COVID changed the way businesses work, right? So we want to be able to have the ability to work from anywhere, and also give that particular ability to our staff. Given what was happening in Kenya, let's say, for example, last week, right? People were not able to get to their workplaces on Monday and Tuesday just because there was a strike. So how would your nonprofit still be able to run if all your data needs to be accessed on premise? This is one of the tools that you need to be able to leverage on. So if you have any workloads that are currently on premise, please consider going cloud, consider using Azure, consider taking up this particular grant for you to now be able to see how that would be able to work on you on cloud. And of course, if you're on cloud, you're not worried about things like backup, you're not worried about things like, uptime, because Microsoft takes care of that for you. So it might actually also reduce your resource from an IT perspective, because you probably have somebody who's managing that particular server, you probably bought a UPS to be able to support it and all that. You are able to cut all those particular, what we call the CapEx costs, right? And now make that operational cost, OPEX, right? So that's another place where your nonprofit can be able to take advantage of. But even as I come to a close of my section, the other bit that I'd want us to look at is things around business process automation. And I know this is one of the key areas that nonprofits can really, really benefit from, right? So as a nonprofit, you have access to 10 free Power Apps licenses. What that allows you to do is start building custom applications that are able to transform your manual work to an automated workflow. Like I mentioned in the case of KWCA, for example, all this information was being stored within their Excel. So what we did is, with their Power Apps licenses, the grants that they had, we've built for them this particular system. It's called Hifadhi Hub. And here they're able now to store data about their landscapes. They're able to store data about their conservancies. They're able to have their funding tracker in terms of what, the pipeline of the data they have, the donors that they're working with, the projects that, they are working on and stuff like that. They are able to see things around their work plans, their goals, their activities, their sub-activities, things around that, the indicators and all that within one particular application. These were all Excel sheets stored separately by different individuals, and you would need to have conversations with these particular individuals for you to be able to access this data. This is one of the ways that you can be able to leverage automation. And remember, you have 10 licenses already free for you as a grant from Microsoft to jumpstart this particular process for you. The other bit that I wanted to show you is, for example, if you'd want to run a program management system, right? You'd come here and you'd now you could leverage a system like this. So this is a system that we have built here in Sebas. It's our very own program management system, and you can now be able to start drilling down. Within a program, you have projects, you can drill down to that particular project, and you can be able to see, where are we on that particular project, right? Which step are we on? What are the budgets? What are the milestones, right? What are the reports that have been submitted? Right, for that. And you can be able to manage a lot of things here in terms of the phases, the work streams that you support, things around the financial reports, as you can be able to see here. But the beauty of it is that you can also now start leveraging things around the portal. So you can have a portal where a partner can come in and submit their reports. So a partner can come in and see their project overview, how their project is working, how many projects have been assigned to them, how is that going, are they on track or not? Those are things that you can start leveraging leveraging on. All this is built on the Microsoft ecosystem. So you have your Power Apps licenses that enables you to be able to extend this further to your constituents. So there's a lot of things that you are able to take advantage of in this particular platform. But that is just the tip of the iceberg. And I want to invite Amos to take us through, some of the live showcases of some of the things that we are able to do with this particular licenses in terms of now real impact and a live showcase. So Amos, karibu.
Asante sana, and good morning again, everybody. Fantastic. So let me just confirm sharing the screen. Right. So yeah, thanks, Edwin. I think you've run through, what are the possibilities and just getting to see, the kind of solutions that can be built. And probably before I dive into, a live showcase of what are the possibilities, I'd want to share one poll. But as we are sharing that poll, there's a Q&A from Abibola. Great connecting again today. So please, what is the difference between Power BI and Azure? Edwin, I think you can take that one as a share, also another poll.
All right. So Power BI is basically the tool that you would use for how do I put it, for modeling, for creating your reports, and for being able to transfer your report or share your report across with your constituents. Now, Azure is a set of tools that now can be able to help you to be able to run your infrastructure. So it has, things around your servers and things around. So it's a whole ecosystem that allows you to be able to run certain workloads on it. So when you think about Power BI, think about it from a reporting perspective. Think about you have, let's say, for example, an Excel, or you have certain different information in different silos. Let's say, for example, ERP information, and you have information in Excel, and you want to bring all that together to be able to make sense of it in terms of insight and analytics. So that is when you use your Power BI, right? But for Azure, there's a lot of workloads that can be able to run on Azure, from things, and I'm really trying to refrain from using technical terms like, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service. Azure helps you to be able to, number one, take your workloads onto cloud. So I think that would be the easiest way to be able to put it. So let's say, for example, like I'd mentioned, you have your server on premise, and you'd want to have that on the cloud so that you do not continue paying for power, UPS, and the management of that particular server. Then Azure helps you to be able to do that. But also Azure has some capability also from an AI perspective. There's a lot of tools and things that you can be able to use on it to be able to serve some of the things that you have, the workloads that you have. So that's how I would differentiate the two, Azure and Power BI. But I don't know, Amos, if I've missed anything on that.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. I see. Yeah, Abimbola says thank you, fantastic. And the poll that we are sharing. So in the previous sessions that we've been doing, we've always tried to tailor to prepared walkthroughs. One of the things that we were hoping is that for the next about 30-45 minutes, we can get to actually address as many of the questions that you might be having around the systems and what you might need. So this poll is more or less to help us make a decision on where do we focus on in terms of the live showcase. But I see, Edwin, there is also, I think in the chat, there was an earlier question. Is it PM tool free? How does one subscribe to it? A fantastic question, Osborne. But Edwin?
Yes, so that is something that we have built. What we've realized in terms of the, and I'm thinking by PM, you're talking about the program management system? If just trying to confirm that.
So.
Yes, so. Yeah. So that is an a product that we have done as Sibasi, right? We can be able to avail that to customers, but what usually happens is that we know that most customers do have different ways with which they track their programs and with which they track their projects and all that. So we usually come in and tailor that, so we could have a conversation around how we could be able to do that. But I think the first bit would be, do you already have for example, the nonprofit grants working, and then now we could be able to have a conversation in terms of how are we able to tailor that particular solution to your needs.
Fantastic. I think the question was asked by Osborne.
Osborne, right? Nyamai.
Yeah. Fantastic. I don't know whether Osborne, we've managed to answer your question. All right. So looking at the feedback that has come in, we have I think about 60% saying all of the above. So I know it's a lot to try and cover within a session of about 45 minutes or so, but let's see. Let's dive into it. I've seen mostly around one central place for documents and team collaboration. So I'll start with that. And then looking at proposal writing and report writing, fantastic. And then also looking at something around approvals and internal workflows, excellent. So a bit of the approvals and the internal workflows Edwin has covered in the earlier session. But let's kick off. So I'll use two different accounts. One with premium Microsoft Teams, Microsoft. So this will be one, and then this one you'll see it has Copilot Chat Basic. This would be what you'd get on a normal, once you subscribe. And then I'll use another one at a later point just to showcase some of the things, especially around getting the reporting and being able to create some of the dashboards for your donors or even for the programs that you're running. But just, I think to kick off, let me just highlight this quickly, this particular aspect that we've been talking about AI, in the recent age. In most cases, we have a lot of discussions going on around AI, and there's this aspect of for AI to be able to work for you and to be sufficient in terms of what are the capabilities. Then you might want to actually look at where your data is actually sitting. Looking at also how your data, in terms of the consistency in the complexity of how the data is set up. But within that, there are tools within Microsoft that will help you to keep your data clean. There are tools within Microsoft that also help to unify the information, and that's what Edwin was showcasing. And the key other aspect is around governance and compliance. And within the Microsoft ecosystem, there's a whole set of tools. So probably you're familiar with some of these. As I'm running along, and Edwin, you'll guide me, if there's a particular solution that you'd want us to highlight and talk a bit more about what it does, then feel free to actually bring it up, I think, in the chat or in the Q&A. All right, so going into this particular account. So when I sign in, the signing in part, you just start from office.com. Once I enter office.com, then it would bring me to a similar view. Then I think I'll just click sign in. I'd already signed in before, so it's actually just going to skip the process of actually asking me to do the signing in process. And when you land in, this is most likely going to be the first view that you have. I don't know whether you could just confirm if this is familiar. I'm hoping, because I know sometimes when you talk about using of that you use Microsoft tools, sometimes what it might mean is using Office 360 Office on the desktop and using Windows, but this is the one that is online, and it is also available in the as part of your Microsoft 365. So just to probably do a quick check-in. I don't know whether this is familiar for all of us. Maybe a nay or nay, yay or nay would help. Let's see. Zero feedback yet. Yeah. Some actually are not fully familiar with this. Fantastic. Thanks for that. Yeah. So when you sign up, as Edwin was talking about the onboarding within the Microsoft ecosystem, when you sign up, this is most likely going to be your first view, and I'll put it as the first section. So in terms of all the apps that are available, and these are the ones that come out of box, I'll go into a different view just to show what else you can be able to get. If you go in, like this particular account has your Outlook for email. It has your Microsoft Word, Excel, and so forth. And this is when you activate the benefits, you'll get the online, the Microsoft 365 Basic comes with some of these tools that are online. And I don't want us to go through a particular use case that, yes, Amibola says there's a little difference. I'm curious about what would be the difference in terms of the view that you're seeing. Most likely, if it is a default one, you might be seeing a bit similar. But yeah, so we'll look at a scenario where, especially, and also touching on the what Abimbola you had asked before around sharing of the files and being able to work, with other program and project members. So we start off this. We won't go through all the solutions. I'll start off by going into Teams. So when I click on this, it would open more or less something similar. And ideally, it would land on something that is quite similar. So we start off by talking about if you're, for example, working with a project, on a project, with other stakeholders, and we start off with the scenario where you're working with stakeholders internally, then you might want to actually go in and say that we are going to create a new team. And the new team, we say that this is, I'm trying to think of a project name. Not many were working in the education sector, but let's just say this is Project A. And we say that for the first, the first channel is about talking about, if I call it general, I'll show you where this name gets to be applicable. And then the moment I say create, it creates a new what we call a new team. And this is significant because of how you might want to, manage information for this particular project. So I go in and the first thing is that it asks me who are the members of this particular project. So if I know that, for example, I work with Alicia, Thoma, or whoever it is within your organization, then you just select and add the members within your organization who you are working on this within this particular project. The moment I add that, you see it creates this. And at the top, I get these various tabs. So the first one that I would want to go in is and of course, the first bit is I can go and post a message and say, welcome team to the project A. And once I post that, it goes off all the members of the team. I've not logged in as Alicia. If Alicia is there, she'll get a notification that this is a discussion. And the whole idea is that as you're working within the project, you get to share conversations and work together within the project. Remember when I entered the channel, I gave it the name General. So the moment I created the channel itself and called it General, what it does is that it goes now on another tool called Microsoft SharePoint and creates what we would say is like a folder. The way we work on your normal computer, you'd create the actual name is a document library called Documents, and within it there's a folder called General. So just to show a different view of how this is actually seen, if I go in and say open in SharePoint, then I get this particular view, and what you'll see is I'll touch on what this more or less looks like. But basically, when we come in, we have the documents and then general. And anytime I come and create, let's say we have the general where we are talking about everything about the project, and then we want to have a separate conversation that the data collection team is actually going to do. Then you come in and say, I want to add a channel and so forth and so forth. Now, as I'm showcasing this, I'd want you to see this from a different perspective. What happens when everybody within the organization creates a whole team? It will be good because then you can have various sites that separate project information. But what happens really over time, you start having too many of these sites, and you have the ones that have documents, and you have many generals, and you don't know which one is shared in what particular way. So from another perspective, you may want to centralize this so that it's not everybody within the organization that can actually create this, what we are calling the teams, because at the end of the day, then you have very fragmented information that is not easy to track. Anyway, for this particular showcase, I'll go with this particular approach where within our organization, we've enabled it that anybody within the organization can be able to come and provide and upload information and do whatever they need to do on this particular, within the particular project. Then I go in and we have a project officer that actually goes to the field, and the project officer did collect some information and they uploaded an Excel sheet. Or I can go in and just say, I want to create a new Word document. And the Word document is, I'm drafting the overview of the project. So I'll go in and just do the overview. This is where you start seeing the capabilities that all of these things are more or less, let me just call it overview. The tools within the Microsoft 365 of the project the tools within Microsoft 365 actually are more or less all of them interconnected. So when I'm within SharePoint, or if I go back to my Microsoft Teams, I'll have all the any documents that we are setting up, and we are saving, whether it is a document that I'm creating, and then once I'm done, probably I could close this. And we have also this Excel sheet about the field officer activity, where we get to actually load in some information, and we created some kind of a questionnaire, and then we captured some information, probably somebody then got to actually type it in later, and I'll get to talk about another scenario where you can take advantage of the Microsoft tools to be able to actually make it easier. Then I want to go back and just showcase this on within the Microsoft Teams. So this is really good, because then it gets to centralize all the information within the particular team, such that if it is the aspect of now creating the documents, we are creating them within the particular Microsoft 365. And since I closed that, I closed everything. Let me just go back, not there. Let me go to select takes a while to load these teams. Let me just go back again to office.com since I closed everything. And I go to within my apps. It's loading. Let's just see. Yeah, and probably as I'm showcasing this, I don't know whether anybody has a particular question. I said I want to go back to the general. This is pretty straightforward, and what I'm doing is that we are setting up our project environment where we are going to be collaborating. So the first aspect that I've showcased is that once you create it as a team, it also creates this repository of the documents, and I can go in and select these documents and say that, for example, if you want to actually access it from your OneDrive, you can just go in and say add shortcut to OneDrive. I'll click on it so that I'll get to show you how that more or less looks like. But also you can synchronize this folder onto your desktop. Then you are able to actually work on the files offline, and that just goes in, and you can click on that, and then you click sync. That makes sure that you have the files within your desktop. Therefore, when you do an update on the desktop, it updates also on the online aspect. So I don't know whether up to there, I don't know, you'll assist me also in checking the questions, because sometimes when I'm presenting, I might move a bit fast. I know I have that tendency. So if there's any, you just tell me to stop so that I can go into a bit more detail.
Right.
Fantastic. Then I go in, and within our project site, when you're looking at it, it looks, it comes on by default. It comes on a bit plain. It comes on. This is a default view of how the sites actually look like, and you'll see actually on the right we have the aspect of where you get the list of all the documents and so forth. So that is the whole where it was asking that do you want to apply a template? So nowadays it has been made quite easy. For example, if this is a site where we are going to be doing project management, I can go in and just select I want to use this particular template. And the moment I click use template, it just goes and does some magic in terms of updating the look and feel. And as probably you're giving it that time, I'll get to show you the result of applying that particular template. I go back into Teams. Let me just see, it's taking a bit of time to load. I'll just open it afresh. All right, yes, so coming back to it, you'll see that it completed that process, and it updated and created this. You see the look and feel has more or less been changed. And the key aspect is that it creates a section where we can capture some of the milestones, any news that relate to our project, any tools that would be applicable for us. But of course, it says here sample content. You want to change all of that, you just go in and say edit. And it's as simple as that in terms of getting to actually, and do updates on the various sections. You can go in and select, if I want to change this, I just select that and change. If this is an issue tracker or whatever I want to have, I can go in and whatever, and it's straightforward. And then the moment I'm finished with the editing, you can select a lot of that information. Then I can go in and republish, and then that becomes available to everyone. So far, I've highlighted aspects. The first one is from starting in from the Microsoft Teams, I went in and created a new team and called it is for specifically for this particular project. Within the particular project, I created a channel called General, and within that General, then I came in and just created in. I showed you that I can use the shared, which is more or less the set of documents. Whenever I upload any document, it actually comes to this particular view. But besides that, I also changed the template. And the moment I changed the template, changing of the template, it kept asking me, do you want to change? You can go in and just select this and then say apply a site template. And then 2 clicks, and now I have a much better view. Of course, I can change the photos to our project and what we are doing within our particular project. Now, this is really good. In a few steps, we've managed to get all the information in. I think an earlier question that had been asked is, okay, so we are working on this particular document, but we are also collaborating not only with our team internally, we are collaborating with our team externally. So you can go in and just select share. And in this case, this environment is called CRM BC something on Microsoft. This is the tenant. That's the team that is actually working on this. But I would want to actually invite my email swachanga@sibasi.ltd. I'm an external person. The moment I select that email, it just gives me already a warning and says that do you really want to share this externally outside of your organization? If I say continue, then it will keep reminding me that actually this particular person that you're inviting to collaborate on this particular document is actually outside of the organization. Now, this makes it easy for you to collaborate and work with people externally. But on another side is for information security, especially if you want to make sure, and Edwin alluded to this aspect of the security, we may not actually want to allow this kind of aspect where somebody can share externally. In fact, what we would want to, the approach that you would be safest is that instead of sharing a document or sharing a folder with just, in this particular aspect, you can think about it. If I can share just one document, then that other person you're collaborating with also asks about this. Over time, you start having so much of the information is accessible by people who are outside your organization. So you may want actually to have some degree of control over how do different people actually, how do you get to share the information outside of the organization? That is a whole different aspect, and I wouldn't want to go into the technical aspects of how you get to set it up, but that's something that you can be able to set up for you, where you have within the internal projects, information is only allowed to be shared internally, but you can also set it up so that you can be able to share with the external people. I don't know whether up to that particular point, I think Abimbola, you had asked about the sharing. So you don't have to have everybody within the organization to be able to share externally. You can be able to go and share just whether it is a document, or I can go in and actually create, if I go to my home, I can say that I want to have a separate folder within our project and call it, I'll call it external share, and I'll just select it's new, and I'll say this one is for external share. And the moment I select this, it will be added there. Then within this particular document library, I can allow collaboration and working with teams outside of the organization. I don't know whether that has touched on the question I think Abimbola you had asked earlier. Great. There is also another question I see from Osborne. With the collaboration work, if the person outside the organization does not have a Microsoft account, or say the organization uses a different vendor from Microsoft, fantastic. So the moment you do this kind of share, let me see if I can get to find an email for one of the shared. Okay, I'll just quickly answer because I'm seeing also the time. Basically, when the share has been sent, the link has been sent, they receive, the person on the other end receives an email and says you have been invited to collaborate on this particular document, and here is a link, or here is like a one-pass key that you're supposed to use. The moment they click on it, it will open on the browser, going to this particular same folder, same link, but they would need to actually validate that they are the owner of that account. So they do not necessarily need need to be part of your Microsoft 365. That is the beauty about this. You can be able to set it up such that even if they use a different vendor, whether it is Google or any other email provider, they do not necessarily need to be within using Microsoft 365 for them to collaborate on the folder or on the particular document. I don't know whether Osborne that helps. Of course, there is also the other side of it. When you're at a management level within the organization, do you want to have information easily shared externally with no controls, or you would want to have some degree of control over how information gets shared? That's a different story in terms of governance. But whether within our project and we can be able to collaborate with external people, yes, you can be able to collaborate whether they are using Microsoft 365 or not. Is there any other question? I don't know whether I've answered clearly the question from Osborne and also the earlier question from Abimbola. Maybe you could just do a thumbs up or just a quick check-in if that is okay, or if there is any additional question on this.
I've seen the thumbs up, right?
Aha, fantastic. Thank you, Edwin. All right, then going into this, still the same project environment, when I created the template, it also created for me these two particular lists. These were not there. I wish I should have highlighted. Oh, sorry, I should not move past here. There's something I want to highlight around automation. So the moment you actually have this project tracker, the moment I selected the template, it created these two lists. The moment I select the project tracker list, it actually comes in and says, do you want to have a due date reminder 3 days before an item is due? And this is where now the next power of Microsoft 365 comes on. Let's say you want to have reminders about invoices, you want to have reminders about documents or tasks that have been created, and you want to make sure within a click of next, I can go in and say next. It will do a sign in, and then I'll just say sign in. Just give it a second. And what basically it's using as it's doing this, it's using a tool called Power Automate, and Power Automate can do a lot more than just what I'm going to highlight. But this is a quick, high-level showcase about what is possible. So I say, let me see if I could. I say, okay, let me just do it later. But basically, the moment I go in and I can say I have set that up. If we have a task and the task is supposed to be completed by a certain due date 3 days before, then what it will do is it will send a notification on email and on Teams to tell you that, by the way, this particular task is already going beyond whatever the planned time. Now, this is really good because then you can do quick planning. But within Microsoft Teams, and now this is another capability. Remember that project tracker that I've talked about? It also comes on this other side. And also we have the issue tracker. This is just by applying the template. It comes with all these very many different aspects of what is possible. Now, another key item that you can add is that I can go in and say I want to add apps. And within the apps, I say that I actually want to add Planner. Now, what Planner does is that it gives you now a lot more capabilities beyond. This is just a simple list where we can list up the tasks. But I know sometimes when you're doing your project plans, you want to be able to see the Gantt chart. You want to be able to see the allocation of tasks. You want to be able to see all these many different items. And I'll say that this one is a planner that is specifically for project management. These are out-of-box templates that come with the Microsoft 365. Project management for project A, and then I say use template, and immediately it will create that plan. And these are just some of the simple use cases of what you can be able to do in terms of the quick highlight and you know what you can be able to take advantage of, because then I can be able to set up the various tasks. So it's taking a bit to load, and then I can see them within a board, or I can be able to even see them within whether I'm seeing them within our calendar, and you can see that it created a board for initiating, planning, execution, and so forth and so forth. I don't know whether up to there this seems pretty straightforward. And whether you are seeing, you know, some of the advantages of actually going with the Microsoft 365 in terms of utilizing this particular set of tools. Edwin, any particular set of questions that I could highlight on?
I see none at the moment. I think you've answered all of them.
Okay, fantastic. The last, I think there's just two more aspects that I would want to highlight on how you can do, data collection and doing it, within the field, and I'll highlight them and then quickly signal back to the various, back to the PowerPoint to summarize what I'm hopefully highlighting. So within the set of Microsoft tools, there's a lot. There's a lot that I've just touched on SharePoint. If I go to all apps, I've just touched on SharePoint. I've touched on Excel. I've touched on Teams. But there's this other aspect of where if you're doing data collection and you're sending out the team to the field, then you can be able to use forms, or you can be able to use lists. And I think probably if you'd want to see a bit more in terms of what are the capabilities, just go and test them out. Within lists, you see like this was a project tracker list. Then all those lists that as we are creating them, for example, the project tracker list gets set up on this particular other system. And the advantage of it is that when I collect data from this side and I can go in and set up a form, and within the form say that, of course, it will pick all the questions. Then I can say, okay, maybe we do not want, when you're doing the data collection, we do not need this to be showcased, or we want to have somebody providing attachments and so forth. As I'm doing those particular updates, I can be able to publish and say this is our project tracker form. And once I say I send it out, I can have a link, and only the people, like in this case, it's only the people within the organization that can be able to actually be able to answer the particular set of questions. I'd want to just jump into something else around Microsoft Copilot Premium, but probably before I start introducing something new, I'd want to pause there and just ask, is there any particular question or something else that you think that would be of interest that you might want to see? I'll just take a pause. Edwin, if you could just guide.
Yeah, I'm checking the chat. None coming through.
All right. So within the set of tools, I've talked about a number of tools, and I'll go and just show you something that you can do with now the Copilot Premium. Within the Copilot Premium, then you can get to actually have a lot more in terms of the capabilities. So when I go in, I have, for example, this one that is called Workflows Frontier. I've talked about, being able to create, let's say, a reminder for when you have tasks or tools that you need. You want to get reminders when a task is almost overdue within your project plan. That is quite easy and straightforward. But this then allows you to do the same kind of items. For example, I have some templates here that come out of box, where, for example, I can say that I want to get a catch up on the missed important emails. And what this does is that every single day just goes through my email inbox and just checks if I have any particular open emails. Or I can go in and just get to see, for example, for the weekly, for all the projects that we have set up, can we get a reminder about all the tasks and what is their current status? Then you can get to actually handle that with this particular view. Now, besides that, there's so many other items that I can do with these particular agents, but the one that I really wanted to quickly highlight is where you have a scenario. Let me just show you from, I go in and just show you from my OneDrive. And I had, let me see, I'll just pick any Excel. I don't know which one is the best to use. Let me filter by that. And then I say, okay, let's use this. Let's use this. I don't know whether it has enough data for us to be able to get to see. Okay, so this is data about, and this is not true data. We use this for showcase. But basically, when I have this, I can go in and say that please generate insights about this data. And this you can do on Excel. And the key aspect about this is that I'm using Microsoft 365 Copilot Premium. So it has a lot more capabilities besides the standard one. And how you want to confirm is when you go into your, the way I was saying, office.com, then down here you'll see that it has Microsoft 365 Copilot Premium. And it has many other capabilities. We might not be able to go through all of them. But just looking at this, then Copilot Premium is doing doing some work in the background. And of course, besides that, I can go in and just get to ask questions using the researcher, or just ask questions about the data and what we are collecting. And then we'll be able to get some summary about, whether it is getting insights or being able to do data collection and being able to do the various aspects. So I'll leave this to be running and just finalize on what we had within the deck. So many tools. We have right now, we've just talked about Teams. I know most of us are familiar with Outlook. I've also just quickly highlighted the Excel, but also you can be able to do data collection and then run it through within your Excel and then get insights. We didn't even get to go into what you can do with PowerPoint, but these are some of the many capabilities of what is possible. There are many different types of solutions that would fit each and every department or team that you might be having within your nonprofit. Whether you have a team that is doing fundraising, Edwin got to talk about the grants tracking, being able to track that particular aspect. There's also aspects to do with M&E, there's aspects to do with your field team, procurement, and so forth. And there's so much that different departments actually need. And what we try to do is that within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, we are putting together aspects where you can, whether it is working with your beneficiaries or your volunteers and the teams that you're working with internally, or your donors and partners. All of that information gets to sit together within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. And with this, you get to have a set of solutions that more or less are able to actually bring together, whether it is management of your projects or cost management, or even, empowering the collaboration across your various teams or the efficiency and productivity. Then this set of tools actually can get to assist, for you to be able to achieve what we call success and having an impact. And while there are many spectrum of solutions that we can be able to provide, we can be able to talk to you and see, whether it is around your productivity tools, stakeholder engagement, automating your workflows, or even finance and HR, monitoring and evaluation, or telling your story, in terms of impact storytelling. Then all these are some of the key benefits of what you can be able to do. So how do you get started? The first bit is, of course, if you've not registered, it's great to see about 60% of us are already familiar with Microsoft 365. So if you're not there yet, you get to register, you go through the validation process. If you have any challenges, reach out to us. We get to assist you with that. And while we get to assist you also with this particular aspect, you can look at many of the different use cases and solutions of what we can be able to assist you with. In fact, we are going to be having, roundtables and even workshops that are coming soon. So if you go to cba.c/K12 roundtable, that will be coming in, I think, in July, and another roundtable also happening in with the nonprofits roundtable. If you want to participate, if you want to sit with us, physically and talk about this, in a bit more depth and look at the various use cases. These are some of the engagements that are upcoming, including a workshop that you can reach out to us and we'll be able to get to assist and feedback. Yeah, so I think we have about 14 or so minutes as we are waiting for my Excel to actually complete. I don't know whether, Edwin, there is any set of questions as I probably switch and just show you. This is what Copilot managed to do. There's nothing, I promise you, I've not done any magic behind the scenes. I've tried to do some surprise calculations and things like that. These are it's just that one prompt, and then it's been able to just give me all these quick insights. Of course, I didn't tell it and generate. If I told it, a better prompt like create a chart and so forth, then it would have been able to go through and do quite a lot more than just doing this. But yeah, I promise you, I didn't do any magic behind the scenes. But yeah, so just probably having within the Q&A, would be happy to hear if there are any specific aspects that you'd want us to address further, or any aspects that you'd want us to talk a little bit more about.
All right. Thanks so much, Amos. I think there's some questions here. I think from Abimbola, and it says, is there a way we can scan forms and analyze them on Microsoft? If yes, which tool?
Is there any tool that we can? Sorry?
Is there a way we can scan forms and analyze them on Microsoft? right? So I'm guessing it's the use case that we usually hear, somebody's going to the field, you have these particular registration forms, for example, and you're trying to see if you can gather all that data without you having to manually type it in. What do you recommend?
Yeah, 100%. So the good thing about the tools, and especially with the AI, is that I didn't take that as an example, but you can basically upload. Okay, so with the Copilot, the basic one that I was using for the initial showcase, it doesn't come with the. It won't give you the AI capabilities within SharePoint. But if I was using the Copilot Premium, then within SharePoint, I can be able to actually tell it that I would want you to go pick this particular PDF file, read through it and try to extract the information, and it will try to generate. And of course, handwritten has a bit more challenges compared to typed information. But if it is typed, the conversion is quite seamless. One use case that we have done this with is where you get invoices. Let me see if I can just open that up, where you get a list of invoices, and then Copilot AI just goes in, reads the scanned PDF, and then converts that into, let me just open its EDMS, and then gets to actually convert and generate the information that relates to that particular PDF and loads it within the particular list. Then you are able to actually get, if you're looking like if it was trainees that attended, people who attended a particular training, then that is an excellent use case. Let me see if I'll just open that up shortly. I know I have it quite close. So this is a use case where we are using Copilot. So what it does is that, first of all, it goes and generates, reads the particular file. This is a file. So for example, let's say this would be one of the invoices, or let me see if I have any other. Okay, so all of them are supposed to be samples, but basically if it reads the details of the invoice, and sees that it is Savannah Ridge Consulting. And then what it does is that it creates a folder for Savannah Ridge Consulting, and then picks the details of the vendor, the amount due invoice, and the due date, and so forth, and then loads it up on the list. So if you have a similar use case, you can think of this as your beneficiaries, or you've done a training, and the people who attended the particular training, you recorded them or typed and so forth. You could upload that particular document, and then just tell it that I need you to go and convert that information into a list or put it in an Excel, and then it will do that as a key aspect. All right. I don't know whether I over answered it or
Yeah. I think you did a good one on that, and I think the other bit is just to mention. Also, you could try, uploading the document on, Copilot and see what it actually can get to do for you. I think I tried that a couple of bits. Of course, like you mentioned, handwriting is usually a challenge, so it would take some bit of time to be able to, understand how that would look like. But it's a good place to start. I think the other bit now, if you have that as a normal use case and stuff like that, then that's when we can now start leveraging other services, things around, OCR, for example, training, probably the AI to be able to read certain documents that you actually produce as an organization. So those are workloads that we now can start talking about, Abimbola. So I think, just try out what Copilot can be able to do for you. And then I think beyond that particular scope is now where we need things around training of the model to be able to understand the things that we're doing. Yeah, I see another question on the chat, and I think this probably would go to Salome, is around the K-12 roundtable. And I think Osborne is asking, for the K-12 roundtable, which organizations participate in this?
Thank you, Edwin. So for K-12, K-12 is just for grade R to matric. So those are the institutions that will be hosted at the Microsoft offices for the roundtable. However, if you guys have any other educational inquiries, I'm sure Subasi will definitely arrange a one-on-one session with you via Teams or even in person if required. Okay, I hope that clarifies the question. You guys hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you. And I
Okay,
think
okay.
that's a perfect answer.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do have, I think, also a webinar for the K-12, and that's K-12 is academic sector. So if you're, assisting with whether it is universities or other, schools that are, from is it 0 to
Grade
what is the
arts,
age we
matric. So
finish? Yes.
yes. So
Yeah, we have the
if
webinar on Wednesday. Mhm.
yeah, so what I want to add on there, if we think about schools today, everything, especially since COVID, everything became remote. So if I take my colleague, her daughter hands in her homework via Teams and she receives her homework only via Teams, even still today, even though they still go into school in person, they still receive their projects and their homework via Teams to submit as well. So I just want to add that in there that I do believe it's definitely a benefit for the educational sector to look into, especially for those educational institutions that are still running VL or on-premise solutions.
Excellent.
Awesome. Amos, I don't know if we can take another two. So number one would be, this is Olua, I think it's Oluwadari of Moses. And he's asking, can I use a Copilot to automate processes? How can this be done if possible? So probably talking about Copilot Premium, use of agents. I think you can talk more into that.
Fantastic and great question. Yes, so if you're using if you're on the Copilot Basic, you may not be having these capabilities, the ones that I'll be highlighting. But let me just show you. Let me just confirm the account here training. So if you're on Copilot Premium, you can just go in and test this aspect called workflows. And the moment I say select. If you had not already added it, it should ask you to install. And let's say, for example, I would want, maybe I don't know whether the use case, what is the type of organization, maybe getting reminders or updates about a project. Okay, because of time, let me just pick this. It says each weekday morning, review all my planner tasks, and for each task, include the title, due dates, and send me a message in Teams that is concise, professional message, upcoming due dates, and so forth and so forth. The moment I do that, this is the quickest way how you can get to actually use Copilot to do automation of the various tasks. And this is just a use case for getting reminders about something that is happening, but you can also do it for whenever an update, for example, has been added, a new entry has been added on our Excel, send a notification to somebody to actually review and approve that entry. Or whenever somebody has filled in a Microsoft form, you would want to have that reviewed, then you just give it a prompt and then it will be able to, it will go and set up the entire thing. And you can quickly just go in, once it's done, I can say save and then I can do tests. And if it is okay, then if it actually delivers and does what it's supposed to do, then it's okay. So I don't know whether that, I'm looking at the time, whether that goes into quickly to answer that question. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it. Yes, and of course there's the basics that you can do with the premium Copilot, but then there's things that now you can be able to push the limit in terms of automation using things like Copilot Studio, right? And I think that is where we also come in as an organization to be able to help you now utilize some of that. So if you have really special needs, for example, if you're talking about getting something from email to an ERP and then out to something else, or if it's complex, then we probably would need to get in touch and see how we can be able to model that using Copilot Studio. But yes, you can be able to use Copilot to be able to automate your processes. Right. And I think on to the last one, I saw Abimola mention about, has there anything that changed with regards to external sharing? Yeah, and I think one of the things that we have seen around that, and yeah, even recently one of the NPOs came through is that usually I think you just used to give the email out. When you're sharing a document, you just used to enter the email, and then they would get the one-time password. The individual would get that. But I think going forward, Microsoft is insisting that individuals should actually be entered as guests on the tenant, right? So you need to add those particular individuals as guests on the tenant so that then they could be able to, all the policies that apply for your tenants. For example, if you insist that people need to have multi-factor authentication for them to access, then it applies to those particular guests. So going forward, I think that is probably the challenge you might be looking at. That probably has changed, right? So for example, you would need to now go and add all the guests that you'd want to give external access to as guests on your tenant, and then they now would be able to authenticate depending on whichever route they're going to use on their side. So that's the old OTP link. That one is going to be retired, and starting June, July, going forward, then you need to have them registered as guests. So I think that's one important bit for you to note. Right. I think, yes.
There was also another question which I think you can take. Can I consolidate monthly impact reports to get a detailed and comprehensive overall project report?
Yes, I think that can be done. It depends on how your reporting is, but I think yes, from a Power BI perspective and the modeling and how it's done, yes, you could be able to do that. Of course, Copilot is able to do your summaries of your monthly and be able to generate, what the trend looks like over time. But yes, you can actually be able to, create an overall report that comes from what has been coming in monthly. So I think it's all a matter of how you model the data and how often you'd want to be able to pick that particular report. It's all within the wheelhouse of Power BI and the things that you are able to do. Right.
Great. Fantastic. So I think, Edwin, it seems we are at is it top of the hour or it's actually time? Yeah, yes, and I think unless there is any other question, it seems today has been very interesting. I think we've gotten to talk about quite a number of things. Salome started off by introducing what we do in terms of how you can get the benefits and what you would want to consider. Then Edwin looked at the far end scenario of automating the programs and projects, and then I just took certain examples just to show you how you can just handle, for example, your projects and the tools out of box with what you get, no special kind of capabilities or training. But we really appreciate. I think it's been very engaging, especially with the questions and answers. I think that helps us, to get some feedback. We hope that we, if you are in the education sector, you can join us on Wednesday. We'll be having a much more detailed session talking about now the same, but pivoted really for the K-12. There's interesting aspects of what is there with that, but also looking at there's a workshop that is coming. There is the NPO roundtable that will be coming. So if you can manage to join us, it will be fantastic. But appreciate, you can reach out to us at any time on success@cbasi.ltd. You'll reach our team. But we appreciate, thank you so much, and wish you all a fantastic Monday and a fantastic week. Asante sana.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Have a lovely day. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.